and welcome to another session of Miss Thomas Learning from Home. Today we're going to look at the 20th century case studies of epidemics. I have held off this due to us being in a global pandemic at the moment, so I don't want to cause any alarm by what I'm talking about, but actually reassure you in the progress that we've made. So the Spanish flu hit in 1919. It hit World War I trenches first of all, and as the World War I soldiers came home, they took that Spanish flu with them. It had common cold symptoms, so you would have a sneeze, cough, you often turn black and blue where the oxygen wasn't circulating around your system. The cause is not known, however scientists do believe that it originated from China. There is still no cure today, just like the common cold and the influenza pandemics. We do not have a cure, but it can be treated with good public health. However, our case study is Dr. Niven. Now, he is significant because of the 1875 Public Health Act. It brought in local health advisors for different areas of the country, and he was placed and appointed at in Manchester. Now, he is so significant to the Spanish flu because in Manchester, the number of cases recorded was significantly less because of the work of this doctor. He recorded every case, every death. He knew exactly whereabouts in Manchester this was all taking place. He also shut any public areas, schools, libraries, etc. He would close those down because he realised it was an airborne disease and those places of congregating people wasn't safe. He then introduced leaflets, which he used simplified language so he could get the message out to the majority of society, but he also took hygiene advice. He was constantly telling people to cover their mouth when they coughed, wash their hands, all of the things that we are doing today, wearing a mask. All of those things Dr. Niven introduced to combat the Spanish flu and actually was very successful, although the national government didn't take much note of him. Moving on to the AIDS epidemic, the second epidemic that you need to know for the 20th century. From 1970s all the way to our present day, it ends up with your immune system becoming attacked. So you start off with HIV, this develops to the fatal AIDS disease. It's not transmitted through air and touch. That's really important, but it is transmitted through your bodily fluids. Now I'm going to go through the 5 stages of reaction and the 5 responses to the AIDS epidemic. So in the 1970s, there was a growing awareness because most people believed at the start of the 1970s it was named the gay plague. The church really pushed this idea that this was a disease only for homosexuals. So a growing awareness has to take place for them then to go on and treat it and react to it efficiently. In the early 1980s, we see a rise of alarm. There's a growing alarm as the number of HIV victims and AIDS victims increases and it becomes a real issue. In the late 1980s, we see an understanding. So that awareness starts to become, and the alarm starts to become an understanding and education. Princess Diana is really quite key to this. She goes away, she visits AIDS victims and she touches them with her bare hands without wearing gloves. That overrides the idea that it was transmitted through air and touch. In the 1990s, Freddie Mercury, the star of the Queen, the band, he contracts HIV and then gets AIDS as a consequence and dies. He sets up there's a charity set up in his memory. We see huge concerts being performed in his memory. The EastEnders soap puts a heterosexual couple, a man and a woman who contract AIDS within their soap. You also see an education and sex education being put into schools about sharing needles and the dangers of that, but also the use of condoms to prevent this. So we see a huge awareness then in developing and kind of overcoming the causes there. Today, we still have an the AIDS disease is still present in society, and unfortunately we are becoming more complacent. So we do need to revisit back to our 1990s ideals, that education, the TV, to make sure that actually in a public society we know exactly the causes of the AIDS epidemic and how to treat it so that we don't get another rise of this awful disease.